Good evening, Kansas City. Thank you for tuning in to our bi-monthly installments of our Restore KC virtual public programs. My name is Paul Gutierrez, Director of Programs and Events for the Kansas City Museum. Our goal is to reopen the museum this fall 2021 as a new museum of Kansas City history and culture heritage. In the meantime, the museum will continue to host these virtual public programs until we meet in person again. This is part 2 of a series called Shining Light on Human Trafficking in Our City. If you missed part 1, it is available on our Facebook page. And also thanks to One Kansas City Radio, it's available on a podcast. Both links are on our website at kansascitymuseum.org. Once again, it's my honor and pleasure to introduce you to our new friend and colleague, Hasna Sal. Hasna?
Hi, Paul. Nice to see you.
Hi, good evening, Hasna. For those who missed part 1 of our Restore KC public program, do you want to give them just a brief intro of what we spoke about on part 1?
Yes. So in part 1, we had panelists who dealt with the legislative side, the governing, and grassroots mobilization with human trafficking. And so we had Greg Lombardi, Scott Wagner, and Christy Childs, who are doing incredible things in their own realms to address this growing pandemic of a sort, ubiquitous in every city. So, and then the next part of this series, the show, is going to be talking to the real people who have connected, who have actually lived through these stories and have survived. And the number of survivors who actually survive this crime, heinous crime, is just less than 1%. So last time we spoke to the people who are doing things about it. Today we are speaking to the people who have undergone it and who are helping others. So
Right.
and thank you so much to the Kansas City Museum, to you, Paul Gutierrez, and Anna Marie Tutera, and Kansas City Radio for doing this. This is so powerful and essential for the community.
Of course, Hasna. And we also talked about the memorial you created over at the park.
Yes, the memorial was really a work by just regular women like me. We all just came together, and some men, we all just came together, working people of the community. We came together, donated, fundraised, and I created this memorial at Lycan Square Park, which is a commemoration to victims of human trafficking in the past, in the present, and sadly in the future as well. So my task as an artist is to raise awareness for the problem and give the victims the respect they deserve. That's what it comes down to. And every one person cannot do everything. The museum is doing its part by bringing this to light. I did my part by creating awareness through public art. And then there's the grassroots mobilization that's going on with different segments in society. So it's a collective effort, and we're just doing our part rigorously.
Beautiful. Yes, I love the collective effort of us all having a piece in this shining light on human trafficking. Hasna, before I introduce our panels, I want to let the audience know that this program is recorded. If they have any questions, comments, or feedbacks, just drop them in the comment box below. Please know that any comments or questions that I deem to be harmful or rude, I will have the right to delete those comments and address that individual at a later time. So let's begin the program. I want to introduce Lucy.
Hello.
Hi, Lucy. Also, Robin.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
Robin. And finally, Christine.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Hi, Paul.
Hello. I will go away from the screen, so it'll be just you four ladies having your conversation. At the end, if any questions come in, I'll pop in to answer those questions. So, Hasna, please take it
Yes.
away.
Thank you, Paul. Hello, ladies. So wonderful to have you here. Thank you for being
Hello.
part of the show. I'm going to start with Lucy. I wanted to ask Lucy if you could share your story with the audience, where you are and how and why you got here. I know it's a lot, but whatever you can share.
Yeah, thank you, Hasna. And I appreciate the opportunity to share my story because all of our stories are very unique. And sometimes that can leave you with a survivor's guilt as you hear other people's stories and realize everything that you were spared and everything that you have today. But I still think it's important for each of our stories to be heard and for us to seek to understand and build compassion and greater awareness in our community. So really thank you. But my story begins with as a little girl, and I had a relationship with a ministry leader who is very prominent and taught me to exchange sex acts for money. And the farther I would allow him to go, the more valuable that was, the more money I would receive. And growing up in a family that did not have a lot, that that measure, even a dollar, meant a lot to me at that time and at that young age. And as that continued through the years, I started to really get an awareness of the farther he went and the more that happened, the more that it hurt, the more confused I became, and the more fearful I became, and the more shame and self-hatred started to surface within me, and it left me in a place where I was looking for love everywhere I went, but I defined it as somebody desires a sex act from you. So I had a wrong definition of love that whole those experiences left me with. So I was looking for my value based on, does this person want to engage with me sexually? So as I struggled with that and ended up in some dangerous and harmful situations, actually went to seek refuge with a family member one summer, and ended up sharing my story with a young adult man who was very, very handsome. And I thought that if I shared my story with him and what had happened, that he would somehow come around and protect me and tell me he was going to make it better. And instead what he did is he said, "This is great. Now that you've done this, what's a few more times?" And sold me to his friends for drugs. And so then I saw myself completely differently. My so many of the boundaries I tried to put in place in my life were so compromised that I just, again, just the self-hatred continued to well up inside of me. And when I came back home from that whole experience, I ended up getting back involved with some people that had been dangerous before, and I was glad that they would have me back again, because I had no sense of self protection, and no, that was significance for me, is they would have me back even after I was gone for a little while. And so when I came back and got involved with them, I realized that the level of their involvement, there were several girls involved, there were more drugs involved, and that the level of what they were doing had gotten to a point where they were inviting me to drop out of school, telling me I wasn't going to have to deal with my parents anymore. I was physically sick by that point, and seeing a doctor a lot, and they were concerned about my weight and those types of things. I was trying to control myself by controlling my weight. And a principal at my high school stepped in, and because she saw me leave school with a drug dealer, with an adult who was dealing drugs, and she knew that that's what he was involved in, and she stepped in, and they created a program that would keep me in school, that put a restraining order in place, and just gave me the protection that I needed to kind of give me some space, and to hem me in, to where I could get away from them and start to put some additional boundaries in my life, to work very, very hard to not return to that. It was very difficult to not want to return, and to not want to feel important to them, and valued by them. And so it was just kind of a very, very long process. But that's a summary of what happened. And then as I came to Kansas City, to go to college, and met the love of my life here. And as I saw Veronica's Voice become an organization, it was in the news a lot when they very first became an organization. And that meant for me that girls that had experiences like mine, that they were equally important to everybody else in the community, and that there was a place where they belonged, and there was a voice for them in the community. And so it was, although I didn't get engaged with them for another 12 years after they first launched, it was very, very meaningful to me to see an organization like that stepping into this space and advocating for people like me.
That's awesome. I completely agree with you. Veronica's Voice is truly a very noble institution doing very powerful work for survivors of human trafficking. Kudos to you and Christy Childs. Lucy Bloom, I'll tell the audience, is the executive director of Veronica's Voice. And Christy Childs is the founder. I know them both personally. They're just incredible women, one of the most genuine people you will meet. So thank you, Lucy, for the story. It's just, I know it's so hard to share this, but thank you for opening your heart and sharing this with us. We all have our skeletons in the cupboard, and, just knowing that, your story, it shows us that we can overcome anything. So thank you for being brave enough to share this with us. I would like to I would like to ask Robin next, if you would share your story. Robin she's going to have her fourth little girl. And again, through Veronica's Voice and Christy Childs, I had the grand opportunity to meet Robin, just such an adorable person and just an amazing mother. My gosh, like I see you and it brings tears to my eyes. You are so committed to your children, but you had a very tragic past. Can you share that with us, Robin?
Okay. Hi. So yeah, my childhood wasn't exactly, I had a really bad childhood, and mine came from family members. My brother started raping me at 5. That's as back as far as I can remember, him sneaking into my room at night. Uncles and things like that. My parents were addicts. My dad was a drunk, so they would fight all the time. My mom would run away. Okay, sorry, it's gonna get hard, but at 12, I was raped by my best friend's grandpa, and my parents were paid for me to be quiet about it. He wrote them a check, and it just went away. At 15, for my 15th birthday, I got an addiction to methamphetamine. I started getting high with my parents. They said, that us kids could find it better than they could. And also at 15, I ended up getting pregnant with my son. That I had him at 16, but sorry. I gave him up for adoption. His dad was not a very good person. I mean, he was abusive. He was into meth really bad, was into crack cocaine, was into stealing cars. He wasn't, a good person. And of course, I was only 15 when I got pregnant, 16 when I had him. So I wanted my son pretty much, to have better than what I did. And so he was adopted by somebody that I know. Um, when I signed the papers, the day that I signed the papers, my life just went downhill because I had just given up my son and I had nowhere to go. I had no family. I had nothing. And I met a guy that promised that, he would take care of me, he promised me the world. And I always tell people that nothing in life is free. It's not, nothing in life is free. And that's the day I was 16 when I met him. And he brought me out here to Independence Avenue. And I mean, he took me shopping. He bought me clothes, he bought me stuff that I had never even had before. Nikes, Jordans, outfits, makeup, and like, it's stuff I had never had before. And then ended up taking me to a house where there was 14 other women and 14 guys. And that same night I was forced on Independence Avenue. Um, I remember he used to have these punishments, and I talked to Hasna about it, that he called it shoes, shirt, and shorts. And if you didn't bring home enough money, or if I got robbed the night that my cell phone had got taken, he would say that's when we would hear shoes, shirt, and shorts, and he'd make the guys strip us down to tank tops and short shorts. And the night that I had to go outside, I was outside for 2 hours, over 2 hours, standing with ice on the ground. And it had snow. I mean, this is when we had an ice storm. And for 2 hours, I stood out there with no shoes on, in a tank top, in short shorts. That was just one of the punishments that we went through. I had cigarette burns. He let the guys do whatever they wanted to us. It was, what were we going to say? No. And he kept, I know for me, he kept me in my addiction is what really got to me. Like he kept me fed. He kept that addiction just going. He knew how to just keep me down. He knew what to do. I'd never tried crack cocaine before until I met him. And the next thing I know, it's like, that's just what he kept feeding my addiction. I remember, I've been raped, I've been tortured, I've jumped out of 100-mile moving cars off the freeway. When he ended up getting arrested and going to jail, they kicked us in. And even after he went to jail, it's like, where do I go now? What do I do? Independence Avenue was all I knew. I mean, 40 Highway was all I knew. And the men that were out there, they see you as an easy target. They see you as money. They're like, oh, you're a money maker. Come on, I've got your back. I've got you. I'm going to take care of you. And so that was a lot of stuff that I dealt with. I've watched friends, girls that I've known out there, they're gone. I didn't, for some reason, by the grace of God, I'm still standing here. But girls that I was close with, they're gone. And it's like, I remember there was one night that I got tortured really bad and ended up getting away from the guy, which is literally right next to my kids' daycare is the building that I was tortured in. And I remember getting away from him and this lady picking me up because she seen me with blood coming out my face. I mean, he tried to stab me with the knife, so my hands were cut open from fighting for the knife. My legs were bleeding. My face was just so swollen I couldn't see. And this lady picked me up and she was like, do you want me to call the police or do you want me to call an ambulance? And I'm like, for what? I'm nothing but a junkie to these people. They're not going to care. No, just take me back to the avenue, clean myself up, and go on, because I felt like there was no point in calling them. I mean, for what? Because to me, nobody's seen me out there. Nobody's seen what I was going through. I was getting raped 5-6 times a day and just, what am I going to do? Just brush it off and get right back out there. I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter, Nevaeh, which that's my rock. That's my heart. That's my little girl. That's my world. She's about to turn 11. But I sat here and you think about it and it's like, how do you tell your child when she asks me later down the road that she could be because of a rape? She could be because of it could be thousands of men. I got pregnant with her on Independence Avenue. And that's where, as she gets older, she's like, who she wants to know where she comes from. And it's like, how do you tell your child that? And for me, I got off Independence Avenue when I was 25 because I got pregnant with the Nevaeh. Again, that's my rock, that's my savior, because I remember falling to the ground and saying, I need to know what to do. And next day I found out I was pregnant with my little girl. And I met Veronica's voice out there. They're the ones that used to come out there and they would give us bags and they would be like, they would give us brown bags and stuff, and they would tell us. There was this one lady that would tell me, she prayed with me, and they would tell us about the bad tricks out there. I think that's how I really survived a lot, is because we had the bad trick book, and so we would know who to stay away from. But I tell everybody now, the reason why I want to tell my story, I have 4 little girls. I have 3 now, one on the way tomorrow. And I couldn't imagine. I fight every day my demons. I fight every day because everywhere's a trigger for me. Everywhere. My addiction's not going to go away. It's always going to be there in the back burner. And it's up to me to stay strong because I have little girls. And I can't imagine going out there and seeing my daughters walking that avenue. I can't imagine seeing my daughters getting high. I used to get high with my parents. And it's like, I can't imagine sitting down and getting high with my kids. I can't imagine none of that. And so it's like every day I fight for them little girls, because you see kids coming up missing. It's just everything. People don't realize, like, it's literally right out our back door. And it takes that 1 second. And it's just my little girls that's my world. They are my heart. I know God gave them to me because that's what's going to keep me alive, is them little girls. And for the first time, I have a job. I have a 9-to-5 job. I pay taxes. I have, I get, it's things like that. I get to be, instead of seeing myself as that junkie, that throwaway, I get to see that mom that I get to go cheer my kids on at, their games that they do, robotics. I get to be that kind of mom. I get to do human things. For the longest, since I can remember, since I was 5 until I was, even here recently, until I did the walk, to take my power back on Independence Avenue, I didn't feel human. I felt like I was just a piece of trash, a throwaway. And for the first time in my life, I feel like Robin. I feel like a mother. I feel like, I'm somebody's child. I know, they're not the best, but I am somebody's child. I am a human being. And so every day I do this to show, not even just my kids, to show myself, like, you got this, Robin. You can do this. And I love that I met Lucy, Christy, Hasna, because out there on them streets, you never had women care about you. I've had women pull guns on me and stuff because they think, because you're a prostitute out, they're walking. And so for the first time, ever since I have met the 3, even the survivors that I've met, things like that, I finally feel like a woman. I feel like a human being. I can look in the mirror and say, you know what? You're not a junkie. You're not a prostitute. You're a survivor, and you can help others survive.
Wow. I could just listen to you all day and I can feel the energy coming to me, and I feel like I can take on the world just because of being in your orbit. Like, you are just one of the most incredible people I've met. And I love that, when people go through pain and they go through these horrible things, they want to pass it on. They become evil. But you didn't let that happen to you. You didn't let evil conquer you. That just goes to show how strong you are as a person, as a human being, that you can take all of this and convert it into all the goodness. And I've seen you with your children, and I have tears coming down my eyes, like the way you take care of Nive and little ones. It's heart-wrenching. I wish the whole world met you, Robin, and the whole world met you, Lucy, and the whole world met you, Crystal. You guys are you're extraordinary. You look like us, prettier than me, but you're just extraordinary human beings. I don't know, God has put some magic, some extra strength in you and that's why they're testing you. And I truly feel that that's why you're here, is to empower other women who have not gone as much as you have, but they still struggle. And so just hearing you, just seeing you, that is the best that they can receive in order to go ahead through life, through this difficult journey of life. I have my next panelist is Kristen Powell. I met Kristen through Lucy, and Kristen, I think, is the youngest amongst us, and she has an incredible story as well to share. Again, a lovely young lady, beautiful on the inside and the outside. I can't wait for you to share your story with the others, and that's why I invited you. Kristen, I think you are a great example for children your age and younger. We know that children get into this system at 11 to 13 years. You're not that much older, but tell us your story and how you got into it and how you got out.
Thank you, Hasna. I'm just gonna be honest. I really, really struggled with this question the most because I've never really honestly like told my story when it comes to like what happened with my like childhood and things like that. And I do like openly say like I've been involved in the system and things like that in work, but I don't really like go into details too much with people. I guess where my journey started with everything was when I was about 12 years old. I started running away from home all the time for any little thing. I could get grounded from my phone and I would probably get mad and run away. I would go in and out of the Wichita Children's Home every single time that I ran away and eventually be sent back home to my parents. The very last time that I went to the Wichita Children's Home was when I met a girl who I thought was my friend. She was way older than me. I was 12 and I had just turned 13, and she was 18 years old, and she had told me to run away with her. And I was like, okay, like I want to run away anyways because I always run away. So why not? I mean, I was a 13-year-old. I was naive. So I did. And ultimately that's like where I ended up being trafficked. It went on for about a month, I think, or maybe a month and a half. And eventually I was found and brought in by the exploited and missing children's unit here in Wichita. And when I was found, instead of like being I don't know, sent back home to my parents or I don't know, something that you would think that would typically happen when you find somebody that was on the run for 2 months and ended up being trafficked. That's not what happened. I ended up being taken to the juvenile detention facility, and I was there for like 5 or 6 months. It was my first time there. Like I've never been in trouble or jail or anything like that. And I was like really scared, but I mean, eventually I did get placed in the system, so I kept running away, and I got used to being in those type of environments. I was incarcerated basically my whole childhood. Um, I didn't really have criminal charges until I got a little bit older. So every time I ran away, they have these things called no run orders, and if you violate your no run order, you can actually be detained for 6 months. So that happened to me all the time. So I didn't have criminal charges, but I was still able to be housed in detention or secure care type of units. At the age of 17, that was the last time that I ran away. And this is like what made such a huge impact on my life. Like this, like next part of my story. I was on the run for a few months and I knew that I was about to turn 18. So I decided to turn myself in. Sorry. I was on the run in Texas, so I had to come back to Kansas to turn myself in because I didn't want to turn myself in another state because I knew that probably would not go good. When I turned myself in, they tried to take me in to be questioned because they wanted to know like what was going on with me while I was on the run, but I refused to go with them. And they said if I didn't want to go with the detectives, they would just book me into the detention facility. And I was like, okay, I'm fine with that. So I was in the detention facility for a couple of months, and I had a court date coming up. It was actually the day before my court date when I found out that I was being charged with some very serious charges. My mom was actually driving up here from Texas because we thought that I was going to be released from custody back to her because I was about to turn 18. So I had called my mom and like just made sure like she was coming and she was on her way. But when I called her, she had told me that I had got charged with aggravated human trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation of a child, and I didn't really like know how to react because I was like, how did I get charged with that? Like, I'm not a trafficker. I didn't ever do anything like that. Like, I was really confused, but I was like, okay, we'll go to court. Maybe I'll find out like what's going on. Like, they'll figure it out. I don't really think like I took it serious until I ended up like staying in detention for so long afterwards, and I like actually started to realize like your life could be over. Like, I didn't really like believe that I would go to prison for the rest of my life, but I knew that it was a possibility. So I had reached out to my mental health worker because in the detention facility, everybody has like a certain mental health worker that they can reach out to. And I had told her about my charges and like how I did not feel that it was right. And she had advised me to write to a local nonprofit here in Wichita, the Center for Combating Human Trafficking. And at first I was like, no, like they're not going to help me. What's the point? Like, I'm already charged. Like, I'm effed. Like, right. Because I was like, what is the point? And then she like slipped information under my door one day and I just left it there. And then finally I was like, okay, maybe I should. Like, she told me to write for a reason. So I had wrote just broadly like to the center, and I had told them like, this is my story, this is what's going on, like I don't even know why I'm charged, like I don't feel like it's right, like I did not traffic anybody, like I just explained everything. I didn't hear back from them while I was in the juvenile detention facility, and on my 18th birthday I ended up getting transferred to the adult facility because I had turned 18. So that's like what they do in Wichita. The night of your 18th birthday, they take you down to booking and then take you to the adult jail. A few months after I had been there, I had finally got a letter back from somebody named Risa Rimmer. And I was just like in tears because I was like, oh my gosh, like they actually care. They're actually going to help me. Like, is this even possible? Like, it was crazy. And then I had wrote her back and told her like, yes, of course, I want you to help me and come visit me. Like, please come right now. And I guess that's when I started building my relationship with Karen and Risa and CCHT. They did decide to advocate for me and ultimately what ended up happening, I believe I was like maybe 20. Yeah, I was 21 when I finally got my deal for diversion for 2 years. So my case was open for almost 5 years before they had finally decided to give me a plea for diversion. And I have officially completed that diversion as of January of this year. So I'm really happy about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I guess I could say like from that, I was released from jail and bonded out, but I was still fighting my case. But I had like so many opportunities, even though I was criminalized and had these crazy felonies against me. Like, I ended up getting an opportunity to get hired at WSU with the Center for Combating Human Trafficking, which was insane to me because I'm like, how do I get criminalized and have these felony charges, but then I get an opportunity to turn 18 and get out of the county jail and work at Wichita State University. So it was just like insane after that. When I started working with CCHT, I did survivor services. So I found like a lot of my passion and like helping other survivors and just seeing them like grow and like thrive and like get back control of their life. So that's like something that I've always loved. And I still kind of do that, not really with human trafficking, but with juvenile justice.
That is so incredible. And one thing, one character that I see with survivors, most of the survivors that I've not met a lot, met a few, but this incredible gift of giving, this giving that you have, this giving of love, of whatever, support. It's just, I feel so honored and blessed to just be in this orbit with three of you, even if it's virtually. It's just unbelievable. I want to ask this question. Missouri ranks 8th in the nation, and Kansas ranks 16th. So I want to put it out to the panelists. Why are our states so high in the nation for this crime? So I'll start out with Kristen. Actually, let's as having been through the system, and like Christy just said in the comments, I mean, you were a child, and and now you were being charged with the very crime that you had to deal with. Uh, so obviously the system needs work. Why is the crime so high in Kansas? Do you have any thoughts? Like, why does that happen?
I'm not sure, like, in particular, like, why. I think that might be, like, a better question for Lucy, but I know, like, when I worked at CCHT, we would always tell people, like, that the numbers are not always accurate. Like, there's so many people that don't go reported. So, like, it's kinda hard to trust, like, that we're actually, like, 16th or 15th or maybe 1st because, like, people come in and out of the city all the time. So there could be somebody in Kansas that's getting trafficked right now, but they might go to Las Vegas. So it's like kind of hard to like really track the numbers, and that's something that like I've always said. I'm not really sure like where like Kansas breaking 16th came in or like details on that, but I don't know. Maybe ask Lucy.
That is a great question because that's what even Robin said to me. She said, Hasna, be very careful with numbers because that is so misleading. Is that right, Robin?
Yeah, and a lot of like you were talking about like it not being reported and stuff like that. A lot of these girls are afraid to report it because who do you report it to? They don't we don't I didn't have the resources. A lot of us don't, we're just now starting to see resources being put out there. Like a lot of women we knew about Veronica's voice, but how do you call a cop and tell a cop, "Hey, I'm being trafficked," when it's the cops that are buying you, when it's Vice that's buying you, when it's the lawyers that are in the courtrooms that are buying you, when it's the judges in the courtrooms that are buying you. So it's like, who do you trust? How do these women have when you don't have nobody to tell? Except for like, again, like the only people I knew about was Veronica's voice, but you know, it's still like you want me. They talk about talking to law enforcement, things like that, but again, a lot of us women were scared to talk to law enforcement because our traffickers had them on the payroll. Mine. We if we got in trouble, we knew when sting nights was because my trafficker, had a vice officer that would tell us when sting nights was. We had bondsmen. If we got arrested, he was calling the bondsman to get us out. So it's like we couldn't. That's a lot of the what's going on. Why Kansas City is still bad. Like Kansas City is to me is in Independence Avenue, 40 Highway. They took a lot of the hotels down. It's these hotel managers that are. It's it's crazy. Just a lot of people are scared to. A lot of women are scared to report it because who do you report it to? Especially whenever there are people you should be able to report it to or whatever. You can't.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, we had a panelist who was supposed to come here and be a part of the show, but she couldn't because she was afraid of her pimp. So you're absolutely right. I mean, this is the reality of the situation. Lucy, your thoughts on this issue, and how is the community helping the victims? Can you shed some light because you are not only have you gone through this terrible ordeal, but you are also part of a very big part of an institution that is directly involved with other victims. So, well, what is your take on this, Lucy?
Yeah, I really appreciate what both Robin and Kristen have shared, and thank you for asking this question, Hasna. The issue that we really have to address in order to challenge and change these systems in which women and children are being bought and sold is we cannot neglect those who are purchasing this
Yes.
customer base, and
Yeah.
that is the demand is part of the root cause of this problem. So part of the strengthening of our system is to make a pathway for people who are purchasing for there to be an appropriate intervention that will help them to address the pattern of behavior and to change that pattern of behavior. So actually tonight we are wrapping up a facilitator's training for a course called Stopping Sexual Exploitation, a program for men. And it is literally to start a movement among men in our community. If there's 14.5% who are buying, which is the estimated number, 14.5 to I've heard 15 lately, then that means there are 84.5% or 80 that are not. And how can we address the norms that are saying it's okay to purchase a person for sex, Just like you could purchase a hamburger in a drive-through, you can purchase a person for a sex act the same way. And how do we address that? And it really comes down to you and me and our societal norms, and how do we teach one another and hold one another accountable, and how do we help people to understand there is no consent when the consent was procured through the exchange of something of value, or the exchange of the removal of a threat, or whatever the coercion may be. If it's just survival itself, right? Whatever that means of coercion and fraud and trickery has been, um, it is not consensual because it's not mutual.
Yeah.
And so we need people to understand mutuality and equality, and build a whole new community based on those values. And we believe it can be done, which is why we continue this fight. We first brought a sex buyers education program to Kansas City in the early 2000s, and surveying across the country what is the best practice seemed to be. We're actually in a day where people were asking us to make it shorter, this class. We're actually expanding it to be
Good.
to be weeks long, so that there's
Yeah.
an opportunity for true learning to happen, and
Yeah.
and to feel the darkness and the weight of this situation, and then make a determination of how can I now be an agent of change. So that's, yeah, it's, I really think we have to address demand. And the other side of it is what Sheila said too, about there's, and even Kristen, you alluded to, there's got to be quality services, and those services need to be a safety net supported by the community, so that people don't fall through the cracks. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to exit, right, or escape. I would say even it takes a lot to get out, and then what do you fall into?
Yeah.
What is there for you? Exactly what Robin said. What is there for you? Is there charges and you go to jail? Okay, so you're in jail. Then what? There's, we have to, it's one thing to say choose better. It's another thing to have another option to choose. So we have
Yes.
to create those choices within our communities to be a safety net for every single one of us, because we all are important. We all belong in this community.
Right. Very well said. Very well said. I think, and that is the issue. You just homed in on it, which is that, that expression, I want to wash my hands, but I don't want to get my hands wet. So it's like people want to get in and they want to do something, and to have said that they've done something, and then they want to get out. And I think, and that's what I'm trying to do as well in my realm, in my field, Lucy, is I'm trying, we started with Lycan Spark, with a project in Lycan Spark. I want to continue the awareness, because just being here in the city, when I tell people, at least here in Overland Park, or Kansas City, that this is what I've created, and they're like, oh, are you talking about women who came from India and China and Africa, and they were brought here, and this is what you are doing because you are Indian by origin? And I said, no, this is about women from here. It's like vulnerable children of our community who are being trafficked by a nefarious few, for their own profit, for their own evil gains. And that is so difficult to process for a huge segment of the society that I have literally seen vis-a-vis.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that all of us in our realms need to do more. I don't think that just doing it or having like a 3-day class is enough. I think that we need to do way more, and raise that awareness, and drum it into people, bring it in really hard and strong, so that people realize that this is really true. You cannot brush it under the carpet. You can't do that. That's not allowed. So my next question is, what words of wisdom can you share with your listeners, having lived and survived this heinous world of human trafficking? What do you have to tell them that that maybe they don't know, or maybe they need to hear again? So Robin, do you want to start?
So you mean like to anybody just listening?
yeah, anybody listening, something that you wanted, if you had like something to share with them that is that you
I
feel they need to know.
For me, I want people to understand that if you see a woman walking out on the street, don't look at her like she's just a throwaway or a junkie. If you're out walking and you see a female, for me, meeting like Christy and Lucy and them at the day of the walk-in, even you and you guys hugging me and telling me that I matter to somebody, I matter to you guys. That saved my life. And that when Veronica's voice would come out there and they would hand us that, and it's like things like that. If you see a female out there, just know that it's not something that we wanted to do. We didn't blow out our birthday candles and say, I hope I grow up and be a prostitute or a junkie. I had dreams, I had hopes and everything, but my life didn't lead to that. I've met girls out there that are just the most amazing people. God rest their soul, they're not here anymore. That didn't deserve to die by the way that they died, but it's just showing these women that are still out there, hey, you matter to us, you matter to me. And that's just for people who haven't been in the life. It's understanding, I want people that have never been out there, they see these people or these women out there and they're like, oh my god, it's just a waste of space. Well, I want from now, like when you see those women, just have empathy for them. So, they are somebody, they're human beings. Nobody knows our story. You don't know where they came from. And it could be that one smile that you give them. It could be that one hug that you give them. It could be that one, whatever it may be, that you give them. Like, again, like Veronica's voice used to do with the brown bags and the food and stuff they would give us. It's that right there that said, hey, I'm worth fighting for. And so I just want other people to see, and like these organizations that are finally, coming to the light, and people are finally saying, "Oh, I didn't know these existed." Well, and I knew Veronica's voice existed, but it's like, don't put for people. I want them to understand those kind of like those is what's saving our lives out there. It's the warmness, it's the love, especially coming from women. Like
Yeah.
you get it all the time from men. You get thrown away when you're out there on the street, but when you have women that are standing up for you and saying like you are beautiful and things like that, people don't understand. That's what's saving me every day, is just the smiles that I get from you guys. Every day's a struggle for me. I'm always going to be an addict. I've right here in Kansas City, Missouri, where I was trafficked at. And so it's understanding like just your smiles, you're telling me that, you're beautiful, things like that. It's the women for me. Because when you're out on the street, these men, they make you uh you're nothing but trash to them. But it's just any women that are listening, just understand like it's that one smile that can save somebody's life. It's that one hug that can save somebody's life. It's that one you matter to somebody that can save somebody's life.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I logged myself out for a second. I don't know how that happened. Paul, you have a question?
Yes. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, the question is, what does it mean to you to have a memorial named after you all, or the memorial that Hasna created? What does that mean to you and your story and your journey? Starting with Lucy.
Thank you. That's hard to express because it brings up so much emotion. But to see that memorial, and that is light. If it's the light of the day or the light shining on it at night that illuminates it, it just speaks to me that there is always light in the darkness. And we can light up the darkness with the story of hope, that a story of despair and of isolation and of, it can lead still to a place of home. And that's what that means to me. And we cannot forget, though, as Robin keeps mentioning, how many get murdered by buyers while they're trapped in that situation. And so not everybody gets that redemption this side, this side of death. And so we always remember remember them. And I think I think of that too, when I see the memorial in Lycans Park, that every single one of us deserves that home. Every single person deserves that home, and that's where all of us come in, is to provide that opportunity for that person.
Robin, what are your thoughts and feelings?
That memorial to me was like, it's just like Lucy said, it's so hard to explain, especially from coming that a woman did this for me, like a woman did this for us. But for me, it's beyond amazing, because that memorial gave me my strength back. It gave me my hope back. It's telling me that it's okay, Robin. You know, somebody sees you. I tell Hasna like that memorial. I still to this day take my daughters to walk through that park, and tell my daughters, look, we go and look at the artwork, and that artwork. If I'm having a rough day, I can go look at that and say, this is where you came from. If I'm having things are getting tough for me, I can go to that park and I can say, this, you got this. It's something that memorial has given me my strength back to say, you're not for sale. You're not, you're not, nobody owns you. You own yourself. Nobody owns you. And for the first time, that memorial has given that back to me, and being able to see it, and it's right there in a place that where rapes used to happen all the time, where you used to get high at all the time, where I watched girls get killed at. It's that park right there, and to be able to walk through it with my head held high and say, you don't own me. That's what that memorial means to me, is she gave me my hope, my strength, my ability to say no. And I've never been able to say no, but I can finally say no. Nope, I'm not for sale. Nope, you don't own me. And it's something that I get to share with my daughters as they get older and things like that. So it's very, you just don't understand how much that memorial means to me, and how much it just gave me a reflection of myself to say, you're strong, you can do this.
Christine, we know you have not seen it yet, but you will come visit us soon. But Christine, what does it mean to you knowing that there's something physical here in Kansas City, Missouri?
Kristen, that question was for you.
Oh, wait, what was the question? I'm sorry, my computer started lagging.
The question, we know that you have not seen the memorial yet, but you hopefully will visit us soon to visit that. But what does it mean to you knowing that a physical monument, memorial is here in Kansas City, Missouri?
Well, when Hasna first told me about the project, I was like, that is so cool, because it's bringing awareness in a way that you wouldn't typically think that you would bring awareness to an issue like that. And then when she told me about the park and like why it was significant and why the artwork was put in the park, I was like, that is really cool, because it's honoring like survivors that were trafficked in that park, and it's also bringing awareness. So I think that that's important, because the place where it's at is a place that, like, if other survivors were to see it, or other young girls were to see it that didn't know about trafficking or that did know about trafficking, I think it could bring inspiration to either one. If there was a girl that was maybe on the bridge of maybe running off with a trafficker and she saw that memorial, maybe it would like cause something in her brain to make her reevaluate the situation. So I think that it's very powerful, and it could like help so many people on so many different levels.
Thank you. Thank you to three of you for saying that. It meant everything for me. I have worked pro bono for 2 years to make this work, and it's just my inspiration and my strength came from survivors like you. So it means everything to me. I remember talking to Jessica, survivor Jessica, and she said to me, she said, Hasna, it's so important that you created this work in this park, because this park has seen the blood of so many victims. And then another survivor, who I won't mention her name, she just wants to be incognito, but she said to me, she said, she used to always be ashamed of her past, but now when she looks at her past, the way it's been shown. She sees that none of this, she didn't make the choices herself. So, which child at 11 years or 13 years will make a choice to go into trafficking or to be with wrong people? Children at that age are always making mistakes. They don't know what they're doing. And it's us parents who are supposed to guide them. Well, if the parents themselves are so messed up, how can you blame this little child? How can you blame this child that goes from one problem to another problem to another problem? And then she just finds, or he finds himself in the situation. And it's up to adults that, that we can help them. So this is why I feel so grateful to be a part of this system, and for three of you to allowing me into your lives and sharing your stories with me. And what she said to me, she said, the survivor said to me, she said, I've always been ashamed of my past, but after this memorial, I bring my children to the path and show them, so that, just like Robin said, it's to know that your children, that your parents have been through the worst, and so you can always find strength in that. And that is what I have learned. It has been a cathartic process for me to learn along the way and to grow as a human being, to know that there are people who are far more powerful and just more human than I am. And if they can survive the worst and still be the most genuine human beings, then I can also try harder. I can also try harder with the little things in life. Having said that, can you share your some words of wisdom that you would like to share with your audience, Lucy? What would you like to tell them? Some wisdom you want to share.
Um, I had thought of something really good and it has left me, so I'm just going to speak from my heart. But I think it kind of piggybacking off of Robin said, it is so important to approach one another with compassion. And I had a mentor who stepped in to my life and really came alongside me and would not let go. And then there were people who wrote letters on my behalf. There were people that put scholarship funding together so that I could go to college. There were just people that came around and provided me transportation. I was so desperate. I was pulling out, I'm this old, the white pages, to call people that kind of lived in my area and to ask them, could I get a ride? And just be stepping in to the life of somebody who is at risk, or who is living in dangerous situations, that type of thing. I mean, it takes some wisdom. And so I would say, if you don't already know the person, you don't know the family, get in touch with an organization, get some training, get some equipping before you do that. But it's so important to have people in your life who have access to strong networks, because you don't have that, and to have that person come and say, I'm going to bring you in and I'm going to allow you to have access to my network, and I'm going to help you, the way that I've been helped, and that's when I get asked, why would you do this? It's like, because somebody did this for me and it's my turn. It's my turn now. So that, I know that would be my wisdom is don't be afraid of the difference that you can make in the life of the person in front of you. And I loved when Robin did the walk. She opened it up to all people to come and join, and people, allies came, and other survivors came, and various organizations were there. And it was just so powerful that it was the whole community loving on the community together. I remember when Dr. Karen Countryman Roseworm and Center for Combating Human Trafficking hosted a day that we did a rally right outside the courthouse, Kristen, and it was like sub-zero temperatures. I'm not even kidding you. It was so cold. It was so windy, and we were just freezing. but
Oh,
it was like that. This is what has to happen. Yes, that's it. That's it. This is what has to happen. We have to be willing to inconvenience ourselves and to be that megaphone, to be that voice. So sometimes you can help directly and sometimes you can help indirectly, like when we all just drove to Wichita and just stood outside holding signs and speaking on the megaphone. But yeah, so do what you can, I guess. And Karen's saying the cold did not bother us, and it did not curtail anybody. Everybody just fueled. We're like, we'll be warm, we'll be but with just the fire inside to stand against injustice.
Oh, I love that. Christy saying I was so sick that day.
She was like, she was coughing, and we couldn't bring her down there.
I
But
actually love this
it's
picture.
there at heart.
Yeah, that's incredible. Wow. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's beautiful. Kristen, what do you have to say to your audience? What wisdom would you like to share in your young life of what, 20, 21 years?
23.
Right. Okay, well, yeah, still a baby.
I guess I would say something similar to like Lucy's point. She was talking about like how people were actually taking the time to invest in her and like show her like they had cared. And that's like something that was so big for me. Like once I did like get back out and like start my life again, the people that were there for me, that were supporting me, that were like pushing me to be better, that were telling me like you can do it, and even that were like confronting me when I was messing up, like all of that stuff was important to me. Like I don't think that I would have been able to be successful if it wasn't for them. I mean, I really hate like saying things like this, but when I think about like the whole like situation with my story, it really does feel like I would not have been able to be where I am today if it wasn't for charged. I don't like that I was charged. I don't agree with the fact that I was charged, but I know that like all the events that happened afterwards, like the people supporting me and like opening up all these opportunities for me, those things wouldn't have like happened if like that wasn't like the events of my life. So I just think like that was so important. I mean, when I got out, I was able to start working with Karen. I was able to like start going to school, starting classes at WSU. There were scholarships available for me. Like all of these things is what made it easier for me. I think a lot of people don't think about that. Like when survivors are first like coming in off the streets, a lot of times they don't have driver's license. They have like thousands of dollars worth of fines. They have like thousands of dollars of electricity bills, water bills, just all types of stuff that regular people wouldn't think about. Like it takes a lot to get somebody from like this hard surviving life to get back to a regular productive citizen of society. So I think that when you talk about investing in survivors, it's a way bigger thing. It's not just like, hey, come leave trafficking. It's like, okay, now that I left, what am I going to do? Like, what are my options? Who's going to help me get my driver's license? Who's going to help me get to work if I do get a job? Who's going to help me get the identification to even be able to get a job? So there's just like so many other things that people need help with. And like all these things are like so overwhelming when there's 100 of them. I mean, it might not seem like a big deal to like go get your driver's license or go take a test or apply for your social security card. But when you have to do every single one of those things just to get your life in order, it's a lot and it's overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great advice, and I think I'm sure the audience has learned a lot. I myself, even though I've spoken with all three of you so many times, and you've shared so much with me and enlightened me and raised my awareness and raised my compassion. But really thank you all. It's been just such a wonderful journey, and this journey has just begun. We have a long way to go. Each of us, you know, as Lucy being the executive director, Robin as a leader, you know, she's so connected in the community. Kristen in Wichita, we have a long way to go. This is just the beginning. Any last thoughts from any of you? Do you want to say? Do you have anything else you want to share with the audience?
Mine would be just thank you for everything. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the support. Some of us we've never seen our entire life, and all we've known is abuse. I just want to thank, Christy and Lucy and just anybody that's been like a mom to me here lately, especially, struggling with, having 4 daughters and stuff like that. I definitely want to say thank you so much for the memorial. Like, I hope you're my hero. Like, you gave me
You
my strength back, and that I like absolutely love to be able to tell, these other women that are still out here, hey, look at this. Or when one of them asked me, hey, what is all this in the park? And be like, this is for you. It's just something. I just want to thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. It was, just everything was amazing. Kristen, you are an amazing, amazing, amazing person. I hope you know that too. Like, you are my hero. And for me to also say that, like Buddy was saying, just it's a lot of these women we get criminalized. We get things on our records that make it even harder for us when we're the ones suffering. We're the ones that are being trafficked. And these men that are buying us are just, they get to go home to their wives. They get to go home to their kids, you know, while we're the ones sitting in jail racking up criminal charges. It's just letting other people know that it's going to be okay. And yeah, especially when you struggle with addiction. Addiction sucks. Trust me. But just know that if I can do it, I just want people to know if I can do it. When I thought that avenue was going to be the death of me, then anybody can do it.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Kristen, Lucy?
I thank you, Hasna. This was wonderful that you bring us together like this. And do go to Likens Park. It's 8th, and I forgot the cross street. 8th,
Myrtle?
8th and
Myrtle?
Myrtle
Uh-huh.
in Kansas City,
And Jackson.
Missouri. And it's really beautiful to get to see. And then there's also a tour of it on YouTube. If you cannot get down there, that you can experience the the installation yourself. It's really beautiful, called Into the Light. And then want to invite people. I mean, follow Veronica's voice and see what we're doing. Help us change the culture. And we love you, Robin, and everything that you've done to continue to augment all of those efforts and bring the whole of community in. And then also other survivor leaders like Dr. Karen Countrywind Roseworm, who's been commenting here. She does fantastic work, that still does legal support for many survivors. There are, as Robin said, many survivors who are criminalized, children who are criminalized the day they turn 18, sometimes even at 17. And there's a lot of effort that needs to go into giving them freedom in those from those criminal records that follow them for the rest of their lives. So I'm so glad that you've had the results that you've had, Kristen, because that is not the story for everybody. So follow the work and stay in touch. We look forward to hearing from you all.
Awesome. Awesome. At this point, I want to bring Paul Gutierrez back, events director of Kansas City Museum. Paul, thank you for this opportunity. Paul?
Well, on behalf of the Kansas City Museum and our staff, I want to thank Lucy for sharing your story, Robin as well for sharing your story, and good luck tomorrow with your delivery. And Christine as well, thank you for sharing your story. Hasna as well, it's been great to work with you on this part 2 series of our Restore KC on shining light on human trafficking in our city. It's been a great partnership collaboration. I'm going to let our audience know that this part 2 will always live on our Facebook page. Also, thanks to One Kansas City Radio, will be available on a podcast. If you go to kansascitymuseum.org, that's kansascitymuseum.org, under Restore KC, you'll find the past 12 Restore virtual public programs that we hosted. This year, for 2021, the goal is to continue having these virtual programs twice a month. Different topics and different themes, so I invite you to tune in. Once again, thank you, audience, for allowing us to go into your home on this Thursday evening. Visit our website, kansascitymuseum.org. It was my honor and pleasure to be with you tonight. Please be safe out there, and please be kind to one another. Until we meet again in person, hopefully this fall, stay well and be safe. Have a good night.